Bob Quinn spent the majority of the Detroit Lions offseason upgrading the trenches on both sides of the football, in part to produce a more consistent running game and to protect his franchise quarterback in Matthew Stafford, with a long-term deal for Stafford now in the works, and with the team's off-season program now fully underway. It's time to put their off-season under the microscope. To help us do that, I enlisted the help of Anthony Bellino of Fox Sports Radio, AM 1230 in Toledo, who also serves as a pregame show host for the Lions on game day, as he joins me to provide some perspective on the job Quinn has done in upgrading the roster on Wednesday. So first of all, Anthony, we want to take the time and welcome you to the Two Man Advantage podcast, and we're excited to talk some Detroit Lions football with you this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So when we look at the Lions offseason, obviously they spent a majority of their resources this offseason on upgrading their offensive line and getting Rick Wagner and TJ Lang to upgrade their offensive line. So can you just give me your general impressions of those two moves and the Lions offseason as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I love the additions of Rick Wagner and TJ Lang. I think that they're both going to end up on the right side, and I think that with Lang at guard and Wagner at tackle, I mean, you're talking about an offensive line that, running towards the right side. They were miserable. They were the second worst team in the NFL when rushing the ball to the right side. So I think that it's a definite upgrade. And they're finally addressing a need in the offseason that they have had for the longest time, and that's getting legitimate NFL starters on the offensive line. Not worried about developing guys, not worried about some late-round picks that they're going to try to use as depth guys and work around. As long as Wagner and Lang are healthy, this is going to be fantastic because Lang and Wagner combined only gave up 3 sacks last season. So we got to get out of the Lions need to get out of the basement of the NFL rushing game. And I think it's an immediate upgrade, especially when you factor in a draft pick in Taylor Decker that they took at 16th last season. I love it. We're finally getting to a place where we can address a need that has been around, 1 in pass protection and 2 working on developing some sort of a running game with this franchise. I think it's been great because who was our last All-Pro offensive lineman?
It's been a while.
Lomas Brown back in 1995. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler and only 1 All-Pro selection. We have never had studs at the offensive line position, so this was a must to address. Pro Football Focus had the Lions offensive line graded at 19th in the league at the end of this past season. It's an immediate upgrade. These guys will have an immediate impact. And finally, we're looking at with Graham Glasgow and the addition of Taylor Decker, both of those guys, both Big Ten football players that played right away last year. These two, finally, TJ Lang, Rick Wagner, let's get some legitimate studs in there, and let's be able to run the football.
Matthew, when would you like to maybe get a new contract going by?
I think for me, I'm just here working out. I don't, if that stuff's going to get done, it's going to get done. If it's not, it's not. I can't really worry about it too much. That's why I have an agent. That's why you hire one and then let him deal with that kind of stuff. For me, it's just going about my business. I'm under contract for another year, and I'll be here, trying to lead this team and be as good as we can be.
Would your preference be to be here long term?
I would love to. I think I've had a really good time playing here. Would like to be here long term, but that's yet to be seen.
One last thing with this. I mean, would you like it done before the season begins? Is that
I have no preference. I think, again, that's why I have an agent, why Tom, why I hired Tom, and he's done a good job for me the last 2 times, my rookie year and the second one I signed. So hopefully we'll get something done. If we don't, we'll play this year, see what happens.
Do you get the impression the Lions would like to get it done before the season?
I've had talks with the GM and the head coach, and haven't set a firm timeline on anything. Their people are talking to my people, and we'll see what happens. I guess that's how that goes, right? I'm not involved as much as you guys would like me to be.
The other big offseason headline for the Lions, of course, is their pursuit of a long-term deal with Matthew Stafford. They seem to be dedicated to getting that done. So can you just give me your thoughts on where that stands and how the Lions plan to move forward with Stafford at the helm?
Going into last season, Matt Stafford said they might actually be better without Calvin Johnson. And when you first heard that, you'd be thinking to yourself, this guy's nuts. Calvin Johnson is a once-in-a-generation type of wide receiver. There's no way. But I think we started to see what Matt Stafford was talking about, and that was as a quarterback working throughout his progression and not always being able to have that safety release that was Calvin Johnson. I mean, the guy was a safety valve out there. If nothing was working, throw it up, maybe Calvin will have a chance. And this year, through the first 6 weeks without Calvin Johnson last year, Stafford completed 67% of his passes, which was second highest in the NFL. 7.7 yards per pass attempt, which was 8th, and he threw 14 touchdowns, which was tied for 3rd. He had a passer rating of 106. He was in that MVP chatter there for quite some time last season, and those numbers in a big 6-game stretch at the beginning of the year, a lot of that has to do with Jim Bob Cooter. I think Matt Stafford finally found an offensive coordinator that really brings out the best in him, and I think that is what has been most successful. It's 2 guys that really seem to work very, very well together. I am convinced in Bob Quinn's ability to get a long-term deal with Matt Stafford done, because I think what Matt Stafford did last year is he proved to Lions fans that they are never out of a game. So before in the past, the pre-Stafford Calvin Johnson era, a team would score with maybe 5 minutes left in the game, go up 7 points, and Lions fans, we would cash it in. They would head towards the exits. This thing's over. There's no way, 3-and-out punt, and that would be the end of it. What Matt Stafford has done is he has built a belief that we are never out of the fight, because he proved that to us time in and time out last season with his unbelievable comebacks, being able to march the team down the field. The only thing I didn't really like about Matt Stafford last year was he took some chances running the football. That game against Tennessee last year, I almost had a heart attack when he took off scrambling and decided that he was going to put his head down and gain the extra yards. I love the fact that he wanted the extra yards. I don't love the fact that my franchise quarterback putting his head down and trying to gain him against Tennessee at home. That game that proved a lot of good things to us about his competitive nature, but at the same time, I'm more concerned about his health.
Well, could you tell me whether you think that Stafford's the type of quarterback that could ultimately lead the Lions to the Super Bowl?
I believe so, and I believe with some of the offseason acquisitions, they're starting to be able to put the pieces around him. It starts up front with the offensive line. You got to be able to protect him. You have to be able to provide some sort of pass protection and the ability to run the football. The Lions have been so one-dimensional since Stafford has been there. If they can develop some sort of a running game, I absolutely believe he has the arm strength and the talent and the wherewithal. He's got the mental IQ to be able to take this team deep in the playoffs.
Can you talk to me about some of the lower free agent signings by the Lions with DJ Hayden, Akeem Spence, and Cornelius Washington coming to mind as some of the depth signing, and Paul Warlow, of course, as they try to replace DeAndre Levy. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on the overall offseason as well.
Overall, hasn't been bad. I think that they're trying to address some needs and address some depth. And that's what this team has to be able to do, because it has been a question of where are they going to be able to improve with losing a guy like DeAndre Levy, for example. Where are they going to be able to improve? So they signed Cornelius Washington. They get Ricky Wagner. Akeem Spence on the defensive line. They address some needs there. They sign more depth at the tight end position at Fells, wide receiver Keyshawn Martin, and then, of course, cornerback DJ Hayden. Hayden's got some things to prove, so I think that maybe this will be a good opportunity for him. I also think that the secondary is an area they need to look to add more depth, because we have to find a counterpart at some point for Darius Slay. He's got to have somebody on the other side of the football that they will be able to have more confidence in. But maybe, just maybe, DJ Hayden can kind of work through that proving himself stage.
And can you tell me about whether you think the Lions are on the upswing with new general manager Bob Quinn? Obviously, his first draft was a success with the majority of his picks from a year ago playing, and certainly we've seen from this administration anyway, he's willing to admit mistakes and replace players when they're not performing up to what level he thinks they should. So could you give me your overall opinion on the job you think Bob Quinn is doing?
I think Bob Quinn's been masterful. He wants 2 years of playing experience to really be able to evaluate a draft class. But if you look at last year's 10 selections that the Lions had, only 2 didn't see time, one of which was backup quarterback and Jake Rudock. He's now the backup after Dan Orlovsky was released. And long snapper Jimmy Landis, who they re-signed Emil back to bring him back for 1 more year. Other than that, the other 8 guys all got all got playing time, especially first rounder Taylor Decker, Ashawn Robinson, Miles Killebrew, Graham Glasgow. Those were guys who were big impact immediate players. I like his strategy in the draft. I also like the fact that he comes from an organization in New England. I talked to Michael Rothstein of ESPN, who's got the Lions beat for them, about this. And Michael just said, look, I don't know if I necessarily believe in the Patriot way, whatever that may be, but believing in Bob Quinn and his ability to evaluate talent and not get connected with everything that is being – I feel like this organization has had problems in the past buying into players that don't necessarily buy into what their long-term vision is. And I don't know what the long-term vision was for the Lions for a while. We were very pass-heavy, and that was about it. We weren't going to play a lot of defense. In the Schwartz era, we went all in on defense but didn't address the needs on the offensive line. Bob Quinn is going to develop and bring in a staff, one of which that is going to be able to work with this offense, but also going to bring in the coaches necessary to be able to coach up some of the guys on the roster on the defensive side of the football. And you saw that with the impact that Miles Killebrew had in some of the 3 safety sets last season.
And you talk about not being connected to players. Certainly, Eric Ebron is a bit of an enigma for the Lions. Obviously, he has some skill set, but he's shown the inability to be consistent. And you look at mock drafts, some people have the Lions taking a tight end. So I'm wondering your overall thoughts on Eric Ebron and his future with the Lions.
Ebron was a stretch for me in the draft at number 10. Coming out of Carolina, I really didn't think that he had proven himself enough in college to warrant a first-round draft grade. And that was one of those picks that was a head-scratcher because of Brandon Pettigrew at Oklahoma. And then we realized that Pettigrew can't stay healthy. We've had inconsistency at the tight end position. I would like to see us go another direction, have the Lions choose a different position, one more of absolute necessity, looking at some of the needs when we approach the draft, not reach for a tight end. I don't necessarily believe that that's a top priority, but we've seen teams with really good tight ends and how they've been able to be successful. But then we've also seen teams, think of like Seattle when they acquired Jimmy Graham, how it didn't necessarily work out right away because Jimmy Graham wasn't going to be able to play on that offensive line and provide the run blocking that they needed out of their tight ends. You have to find that perfect combination of a guy that can block and a guy that can catch. One name, so don't stretch, don't reach for one. One name I want you to watch out for, who we saw a lot down here, Michael Roberts out of Toledo. And this guy, I'm telling you what, whoever gets him, they're going to be able to sign him. They might be able to draft him. He might be a 3rd, 4th, 5th rounder. they can snag him, huge value pick. A player like that, I could see the Lions going after. Do not make a reach like we did, and let history teach us a lesson. Don't reach for a tight end that's unproven. Try to find one with a little more value.
And one other big offseason story was bringing back Jim Caldwell. They sort of shuffled that under the radar before the Seattle game, but he hasn't been given an extension. So I'm just wondering your overall thoughts on the job that Jim Caldwell has done and the decision to bring him back for another season.
I mean, he was dead in the water after week 4. They started out 1-3. The hot seat, I mean, that oven was turned on, level 10 right there. It was like a blowtorch he was sitting on. But for some reason, after that dreadful loss in Chicago, where Golden Tate was basically benched in the second half, they turned the corner. And it seemed like the team really bought in. I think that's why Bob Quinn decided, you know what, we'll make this the trial year. We don't necessarily have to sign him to some sort of long-term extension. This will be the tell-all year. We'll give him the weapons necessary. We'll give him another year at the head coach spot. I would definitely say he's on the hot seat, and this has got to be the season this team wins a playoff game.
And do you think that he'll be around next year? And how, like the year after this contract is over, and how important do you think it is for this team to get off to a fast start?
Fast start's going to be necessary, especially if you're Jim Caldwell, because you don't want to be in the same position you were at last season when it came down to 4 weeks into the season and people are talking about you getting fired. The one thing, if you look across the league at the best franchises in all of football, they have consistency. They've got the same general manager, they've got the same head coach, and they've got the same quarterback. And if you can narrow those 3 keys down, where the GM, the coach, and the quarterback are all on the same page from a personnel standpoint, the GM and coach have trust in one another. Over time, we've seen that the most successful NFL franchises have that. I don't know if necessarily coaching changes seem to work all the time, but you have to be able to coach your team. Coaching is the most underrated aspect in sports. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. But think about sports outside of football. You'll immediately go to Belichick and the Patriots in the game of football. But think of like Greg Popovich and the Spurs. They have consistency in general management, consistency at the head coach, and consistency with star players. So if the Lions can find that, if Jim Caldwell can find a way to take this team to the next level, then yeah, I would say his job is safe. But if they get off to a slow start or they peter out towards the playoffs and don't make it, if they get into the playoffs, into the wild card round and can't win the game, and it becomes the same old story, then maybe it is time for a change. But I really love offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter. I think that they need to find a way to keep him in the mix, even if they change head coaches, because he and Stafford seem to have some magic.
Now, do you think Caldwell is a high-level NFL head coach? He obviously has this group's ear, and they want to play for him. But in terms of time management and coaching decisions, do you consider Caldwell to be an elite head coach?
Elite, no. No, I don't consider him to be an elite head coach. Just because you look at you look at what he's been able to do in Indianapolis, for example, when he was coaching there. They were 14-2, 10-6. Then all of a sudden he was 2-14. It just was not a very good situation for him. And then in his time with the Lions, 11-5, 7-9, 9-7. They make the playoffs and get bounced to the wild card in 2 out of the last 3 years. It's not as if he's been terrible, but I'd say he's a middle of the pack type of coach. He's not a top level, top tier kind of coach, but at the same time, he's not terrible. We're not in the Cleveland Browns situation, which I think is a positive. But some of those clock errors that he made this season, where you got to be thinking to yourself, why not call the timeout? Why are you why not spike it? Why are you trying to run the ball in this position? Decisions like that. That's what his job is going to hang on to.
And recently, the Lions unveiled their new uniforms. Now, personally, I wasn't a huge fan of them, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on the new look for the Lions.
I like it, man. I can't lie. I mean, I'm a little disappointed we don't have the all-black alternate. I was in love with that jersey when the Lions came out with that, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, whenever that was. But
well, they had to get rid of memories of Matt Millen, right? So
right, yeah. They wanted to get rid of everything he put his hands on. But you know what? To be honest with you, I'm a fan. I like the color rush all gray. I think the throwback looks clean. I don't know about the Lions actually put it out on the sleeve like we saw on some of those mannequins with the road uniform, the white top, and those real dark blue pants. And then the home uniform being the more of a whiter style pant with the blue top. Man, I like them. I'm digging them. I think Nike's trying to do a good job. So I think it'll be a benefit. A little different look is something, but really like the new throwback and the color rush all grays. I think those are going to look fantastic on the field.
Well, I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, so I was kind of disappointed that the NFL won't let them grandfather in their traditional throwbacks, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Absolutely, right? We can't have it all.
So, moving on, the draft is next Thursday. Pray to God we don't take an offensive player. But I'm just wondering your thoughts on which direction the team will go. Obviously, they've got some defensive needs, a lot of defensive needs, actually. We talked earlier about a tight end, and I wouldn't be surprised or shocked if they consider the running back either. So can you tell me which direction you think they will go and should go in the draft next Thursday?
Well, I don't know what you believe in, but I tend to be a God follower. I'm going to pray to him that Reuben Foster from Alabama falls all the way to 21. I don't know if the Lions will jump up to try to make a move because it might cost them a little more than he might be willing to have. But we have to improve, the Lions do, at the linebacking position, and they have to find an edge rusher. So if you imagine Reuben Foster from Alabama will be long gone by the 21st pick if the Lions stay there. Maybe a Zach Cunningham out of Vanderbilt, a name that I've seen that's been thrown around, or if they want to go straight to the line, think of like a Taco Charlton out of Michigan, maybe a Dietrich Wise on day 2. But like I said earlier, they have to address a counterpart for Darius Slay. This may be where they go for a Shaq Griffin out of Central Florida or an Ahkello Witherspoon out of Colorado, who's at 6 feet 3 inches tall. He's a big, strong, physical corner who's got some hands as well. That would be good. You said stay away from offense, and I believe that in the first couple rounds. I think the first round's defense is where the need is at, but they have to find depth at wide receiver. They need a legitimate number 3 receiver, even if Anquan Bolden does decide to come back, which he said he wants to play again. It's probably going to be a situation where the Lions are in the mix with another team, and if it's possible, the Lions can seal them up. You want that veteran presence there. If not, how about Juju Smith-Schuster out of USC or J.U. Chesson from Michigan? Because they're going to
good value picks, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get them on day 2 or day 3, fantastic. I don't think Smith-Schuster will be there come the third day, but day 2, later rounds, those 2 guys right there, especially Chesson, they could be a nice addition. Also, another Toledo guy for you, a Kareem Hunt, maybe a John Connor out of Pittsburgh, 2 running backs that they might want to take a look at just because both of the starting running backs are coming off of surgeries, which is not good. And the injury issue at the running back position has been something that has plagued them. And Amir Abdullah showed the ability to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield and be able to run between the tackles. Theo Riddick, kind of a scat back, but if we can replace Zach Zenner, who was good, with a guy like a Kareem Hunt or a John Connor, then I think that it puts us in a much better position. And then later on in the draft, more depth in the secondary, more depth at the linebacking position.
Now, would there be a direction that would make your jaw drop that you don't want the Lions to go on Thursday or throughout the draft?
Don't waste that first-round pick on a tight end. I keep reading this, and it's really bothering me. I'm not getting any sleep at night. It's causing me to sweat when I start reading it. It's no good. Don't go first-round tight end, please.
Or a wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. We know our history there.
They need one, but not in the first round. But as they start off-season workouts this week, can you give me some headlines you'll be looking to develop throughout the course of the off-season as they go towards training camp?
as we move towards training camp, can we escape this offseason all the way from OTAs to training camp and into the preseason? Can we escape this without any injury? You know, we just talked about earlier the key additions upon the offensive line with TJ Lang and Rick Wagner. Can we not have those guys get hurt? That would be great. Can we keep everybody? I don't care if we have to bubble wrap people at this point. Got to stay away from injury. The second major headline I would say would be depth at wide receiver. TJ Jones, Chase Billingsley, Keyshawn Martin, Jared Abbrederis out of Wisconsin. Can one of these guys really explode onto the scene, develop some chemistry with Matt Stafford, and give us a solid number 4, or maybe creep into that third wide receiver spot? So that wide receiver battle there, and the offensive line as a whole, can they show signs of improving and being able to establish some sort of running game? I cannot stress that enough. When you have a team that was 30th in rushing yards per game, 20th in points per game because they're forced to become one-dimensional, because they're a top 15 team offense passing the football, they just can't run the ball. So can the offensive line show improvements, be able to move the chains without having to completely rely on Matt Stafford?
Now, when we look at the Lions and Laken Tomlinson, I don't think he'll be here for much longer. He's another first-round pick from the Mayhew administration that doesn't seem to be panning out. He'll be there for death. But in addition to Tomlinson, I'm wondering your thoughts on the tenure of DeAndre Levy. He started so high, and his tenure here ended with kind of a thud because he couldn't stay healthy either. So I'm wondering if you could give me a thumbnail on those two players in particular.
Well, I think that with Laken Tomlinson, here's my whole theory on offensive linemen. You're either going to go Power 5, and by Power 5, top tier teams in Power 5 conferences. So if you find an Alabama offensive lineman, that's what you want. You want somebody who is used to being able to run the football, or you go to the Big Ten. And that's exactly what Bob Quinn did last year. He went Michigan and Ohio State. You can find great offensive linemen out of Wisconsin because Bruce Arians, the Arizona Cardinals head coach, said the reason that teams are struggling right now offensively is because in college, with everyone running the spread, the biggest problem is offensive linemen. Their first step is naturally backwards now. They have to be able to push and get off the ball. Laken Tomlinson hasn't been able to do that. He hasn't really panned out. You got to find offensive linemen that are used to dominating at the line of scrimmage. So right now, Florida State, USC, Alabama, any team out of the Big Ten, find me a guy that is used to being able to run the football, go up and punch somebody in the mouth. That's what you want. I don't see that out of Laken Tomlinson. And as for DeAndre Levy, it's just injuries. Injuries are a part of the game. They always have been. They always will be. And it's unfortunate. But when is the last time the Lions have had a linebacker that was a Pro Bowl selection, that was a guy that was year in and year out? They haven't had an A.J. Hawk, for example. They haven't had a Ray Lewis, for example. They haven't had Clay Matthews. They haven't had that kind of keystone defensive player that they were hoping DeAndre Levy would turn out to be, that it just didn't pan out. I think it could have if he could have stayed healthy, but health's an issue.
Speaking of injuries, what players or player are you most excited to get back on the field for the Lions this season?
I want to see Amir Abdullah. I really do. I think that he showed great promise. He's a kid that played at Nebraska, so he's used to being able to get the rock a lot in a ball game. 15 to 20 carries a game would be great. If they can somehow get that running game to more than 82 yards a game across it and deploy more of a running back by committee. But I want to see Amir Abdullah. I think that this team really underachieved at times because they could not establish running between the tackles. And I think Amir Abdullah, not only can he do that, but he can catch the football as well. He's explosive. That's a guy I want to see more of, and unfortunately we didn't get to because he spends most of his time on the sideline.
Well, if he stays healthy, hopefully their forming an offense will improve this year too.
Yeah, amen. No doubt about it.
My final question for you, Anthony, has to do with why should people be excited about Lions football this year, and can you give me some reasons why they should be concerned as well?
I'll go with the negative first, just to get that out of the way, because I'm a pretty positive person. So health at the running back position is a concern. If they don't address it in the draft, it's going to be another season where we're too consistently reliable to Matt Stafford. It's like ball and chain with it. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to establish that. The linebacking core is the second issue. who is going to provide some a fear factor behind that defensive line. And my third issue is the secondary. It's all defense. We were 30th in sacks in the league. We were -1 in the turnover margin, 22nd in interceptions this past year with just 10. And the Lions were 13th in points against, 18th in yards against. If you want to be a legitimate contender, you got to find a way to be able to defend, and that is the biggest concern. Can we find somebody at linebacker, and can the Lions put out a secondary that can be able to force the takeaways on that side of the football? Those are my concerns. My reasons to be excited, the O-line has improved. And where the O-line has improved, that means that Matt Stafford in the run game will improve. I think that Matt Stafford's improvement as a leader and as a passer, plus those additions to the offensive line, I think Lions fans will be able to look at this season knowing that they're never out of a contest because of what Matt Stafford proved to them last year. I think it's going to be a good season.
Hey, Anthony, we want to take some time to thank you for your insight and perspective on Detroit Lions football. We're always excited to talk about that here at the Two Man Advantage podcast, and we want to thank you for your time this morning.
All right, thank you. Have a great day.